Okay, we're live, and it's now 5 o'clock. Got lots of viewers, so we're going to get started. So make sure you've downloaded that booklet. There's the link at the bottom of the page. And I got to turn off my phone. I guess you'd want to do the same thing. So you've got the PDF downloaded. You want to follow inside. I'm not going to read word for word what's written in that PDF. It's based on Lakuti Sichos. I got the book over here, Hai Elul. So if you're good at Yiddish, you might want to read it inside over there. But I feel this is a fair rendering, a nice rendering of the basic concepts of what's spoken there, although it's much more, of course, much deeper and much filled out as it's written in the original. But we'll go through this and I'll add in some notes and so on. Okay, let's get started. This is becoming alive. So we have a holiday. It's coming up this Shabbos, Chai Elul, the 18th of Elul. Not everybody knows about it, and for many years people didn't know about it. But one day, the sixth Rebbe of Chabad, Rabbi Shalom Dov Ber, was the fifth Rebbe. Sorry, he said to his son, Rabbi Yosef Yitzchak, who became the sixth Rebbe, told him Good Yom Tov, and explained to him what it was all about, and that this day is the birthday of the two of the major figures of the Hasidic movement. First of all, the Baal Shem Tov, who was the founder, and secondly, the Alter Rebbe, who was the first Rebbe of Chabad, and is the one who really grounded the Hasidic movement and defended it against its opponents. So he told him Good Yom Tov, he told him many things about it. So it turns out that both of these people, major figures, were both born on Hai Elul. Hai in Hebrew means life. So it's the life of Elul. So what the Rebbe is going into here is, what do their teachings have to do with Chai, with life, the Chaim, and especially about a birthday? Why is that connected to the Baal Shem Tov and to the Alter Rebbe, Rabbi Shneur Zalman of Liadi? So we're going to have to understand, what is a birthday? Basically, what does it mean to be alive? Which is a very interesting question. We'll get into that. What does it mean? Like, you can have a car, it moves, and a computer that does all sorts of neat things, but it's not alive. And then you can have a little bug, or a plant, or one of us critters, and we are alive. So that's a very interesting idea, and that's going to help us understand. Or here we talk about, is the fetus inside the mother, do we consider that alive? Well, it's alive, but is it a living being? So it's a different thing. Your finger is alive, but is it a living being? No, it's part of you. You are the living being. So that's what we're going to discuss. And once we get a handle on that and what it means to be born, be your own living being, to be alive, then we'll have a much better idea of what is it exactly that the Baal Shem Tov brought to us in the way that we do Torah, and Rabbi Shneur Zalman, the Alter Rebbe, what he did with that. Okay, so let's look at it. So it starts off that really in Torah there's no mention of birthdays. There's no commandment, thou shalt eat cake and blow out candles on your birthday. It doesn't say that anywhere. But there is, the rabbis talk about, certain things that happened because of a birthday. It says when Haman was throwing lottery to decide what day he's going to make the decree to eliminate the Jewish people. So he was very happy because it fell out in the month of Adar. That's the month before Nisan, so basically the last month of the Jewish year. And he was happy because he knew that that was the month in which the savior of the Jewish people, Moshe Rabbeinu, died in that month. And the rabbis say what he didn't know is that Moses was also born on that month. So it turns out that because that was the month in which Moses was born, therefore the Jewish people were saved. So that means that his birthday is very significant. And then the whole story with the birthday of Yitzchak, Isaac, the second of the forefathers. So he points out after the Jews received the Torah, and they messed up with the golden calf. Okay, another story. But then they started building a Mishkan in the 7th month, the month of Tishrei, after Yom Kippur. Right after Yom Kippur, they started assembling, putting all the parts together, building a Mishkan. And it was finished by the end of the month of Adar, the 25th of Adar. It was already finished. But God waited. He put it off. He said, no, don't inaugurate the Mishkan yet. The Shekhinah, the divine presence, is not going to rest on it until the first day of Nisan. Why the first day of Nisan? Why is everything being put off for 8 days until the first day of Nisan? Everything was ready. Because that's the birthday of Yitzchak Avinu, Isaac, our forefather. And God wanted to make a celebration of his birthday should be the celebrating a nice birthday present for him. That's the day that the Mishkan, the tabernacle in the desert, was inaugurated. So we see that the birthday then is really something quite significant. So what is special about a birthday? And now we're on the next page there. What is so special about a birthday? Take a look at just the text box over there, text 1, which is how the Talmud in Nida describes what it's like before you're born. And it says a candle is lit over his head, talking about this unborn person. A candle is lit over his head. And he gazes and sees from one end of the world to the other. And they, meaning the angels, teach him the entire Torah. So it's wonderful, okay? And he says he doesn't have to eat, he just eats, he absorbs whatever his mother's eating, doesn't have to breathe, gets the oxygen his mother's getting. Everything's taken care of. It's warm and cozy and nice in there the whole year round, okay? And then when he enters the atmosphere of the world, so not only now is it cold and nasty out there, and anytime this poor little kid wants to eat, has to be screaming and struggling, and there's all these changes and pains and worries and so on, and eventually they even put you in a desk and make you listen to a teacher or whatever. Okay, all that torture the person has to go through. But then a major part of it, what the Talmud says, when he enters the atmosphere of the world, an angel comes and taps him on his mouth and makes him forget the entire Torah. And even though I haven't seen this written anywhere, but everybody says that the reason we have this little, whatever it's called, there's a word for it, this depression over here beneath our nose, is because that's where the angel tapped you. Okay, the Gemara doesn't say, the Talmud doesn't say that, but I haven't heard any other explanation what on earth it's doing there. But the point is that you've forgotten the entire Torah. You're learning, you have the entire Torah there, and now you've forgotten the entire Torah. So it's not just physically you're losing out when you're born, but spiritually you lost the entire Torah. And now you're going to have to struggle and relearn everything, and you're never going to get it as well as you had it, as you were taught by angels there in such a comfortable environment. You're going to have to be able to reach that. So the question comes up, and actually I remember standing there, it was a Freeman in 1981, I think, and the Rabbi was asking this question. The Rabbi says, why do we celebrate a birthday? What's there to celebrate? On the contrary, it was a total catastrophe. You were so much better off there inside the womb. Why are you celebrating the day that you came out of there and now have to struggle with the world and you forgot the whole Torah? What's going on? Okay, so here's where we get to this question of what does it mean to be a living soul? And it's actually a major question that comes up in Halacha. A big question, very important. If you have a situation where the fetus is putting the mother's life in danger, God forbid, and the doctors say that, look, we can save one life or the other. Either we save the life of this fetus, could be born now and still be a viable living being, but the mother won't be able to survive, God forbid. Or the other way around, the mother will survive, but the fetus will not. So what do you do? What do you do? So the rabbis reduce it, or compare it to another question that we have. If you have one person who is chasing after another person, to kill him, even if it's a question whether he's actually going to kill him or just hurt him, you don't know what. So are you allowed to take one life to save another life? So we say, yes, you can take the life of the pursuer, the one who's pursuing him, in order to save the life of the person he's pursuing. Of course, if you can just shoot him in the leg and do something else, you do that first. But if the only way to save this person, to save the person who's being pursued, is by killing, God forbid, the person who's pursuing him, then that's what you, not only you can do, you must do. And that's, even though you're taking a life, it's considered to be saving a life. The Torah says you're not lo tamod al dam re'echa, you're not allowed to stand and watch your brother being killed. So you have to do something to save him, even means killing somebody else. So we say, well, that's the case over here. The fetus is out to take the mother's life. So therefore, not only you can, but you must take away that life of the fetus in order to save the mother. But the rabbis say that only applies until the point where the baby's head has emerged into the world. What's the difference, Dan? Because once the head of the baby is out, then they're both considered to be two living beings. And each one is pursuing the other. So if you have a situation where there's two people fighting with each other, each one trying to kill the other, then you can't say, well, I'm going to kill one person to save the other. What makes this person better than the other? Unless you have a reason to believe so. But otherwise you can't. So here you have two innocent people, and one is inadvertently killing the other. The other could be killing that one. So whose life do you take? And that becomes a huge, horrible question we wouldn't have to deal with. And we won't get into that. It gets much more complex. The point is, why the difference? Why the difference that as soon as the head has emerged into the world? Because until that point, the lives are not equal. The life of the mother is she is a living being. The life of this fetus, is considered to be a limb of the mother. It's not its own living being. It's alive, but not what we would call a person or a living being. That hasn't reached that stage yet. So therefore, we're going to say at this point that the mother's life takes precedent over the life of the fetus. But as soon as that child has now emerged into the world and become its own living being, then they're both on equal standing, and we can't make that decision anymore. By the way, you can type questions that you have into the chat box, and what's going to happen is somebody's going to email me those questions that you send, and then when I get them, I'll be able to answer them. And I see so far that nobody's. If you have typed in questions, nobody's forwarded them to me. So once I get them, I'll be able to start answering them. Right. So okay. So now this is not a class in abortion, saving lives, or anything like that. This is a class on Hai Elul and what does it mean to be alive spiritually alive. So what is a living being spiritually? So let's go back to that case of this fetus. The fetus is going to have a soul, its own soul, but the soul that it's going to have is still held in potential, like a seed within its shell. The life that the fetus actually has now is the life of its mother. That's what's giving its life. So in a certain way, you could compare the fetus to not an not an organism, but a mechanism. Let's think about that. There's a difference between a mechanism and an organism. A mechanism, like a car. I'm saying about a car is run by an engine. The engine is run, but even the engine's not running. It's the fuel, and the pistons, and the spark plugs. And even then, you need a person to ignite it, turn the ignition key. An organism is running itself. Every cell of the organism is alive. Not just the limbs are alive, every cell is alive, every piece of matter in there itself is alive. Basically, a mechanism is being run from the outside, and an organism is being run from the inside. It's got its own life. A mechanism, the energy that's driving it, and the thing that's being driven are two different things. Two separate things. An organism, its life and the matter of which it's made are both one thing, one whole thing. So we say this as a living being. So you take my finger, the finger is alive. You take a cell out of there, that cell is alive. Every part of his life. You can have the same body, take some little critter, and it's alive, and then it's dead. All the cells are still there. Everything is still there, exactly the same. But it's not alive. It's not a living being anymore. So there's another thing that happened, that when it has this life, all the parts of this thing all become one living being. It has its own life to become one living being. So that's what happens when you're born. The life that you have now, two things are happening about it. All of you is alive, and you're alive with your own life. So all of you were alive before when you were inside your mother. But now you are alive with your own life. You're your own being. That's basically it. It's interesting. We don't call a car or a computer or any other device a being. Only a living being we call a being. That the whole thing becomes one totality. And every part of it is working to preserve this and defend and do its best for this one totality that's called a being. Okay, now let's apply that. It's a lot of information. We can apply that to what it means. Oh, I just got a message that chat wasn't working, and chat is working now, so you can start typing in your questions, and then I'll start getting those questions. They'll be sent to me. Please announce to people to refresh the page, pressing F5 or whatever you do from your machine to be able to chat. So turn on your chat now, right? Okay. So let's apply that to what it means to be alive in your spiritual service. What did he just send me? Another message now. And I'm going to look. They will have an option to chat on the right of the page. Okay, so look at the right of your page, and that's a great place to chat. But please try to chat and listen at the same time. Otherwise, I'll get questions that I've already answered, whatever. Okay. So what does it mean to be alive in a spiritual sense? So there's a text over here that we get to on page 5. We say it every day in our prayers before we say the Shema. Therefore, we will rejoice in the words of your Torah and in your commandments, your mitzvahs forever and ever, for they are our life and the length of our days, and we will delve into them day and night. Hai Elul, they are our life. So the Torah is our life. So the Torah is our spiritual mission in the world. This is the mission that's been assigned to us. And everything the Torah has given us, this mission to go about fixing up the world through Torah. And now a Jew can relate to that in two ways. He can relate to it as a living being, or he can relate to it as a fetus does. I don't want to talk about the person who's relating it to not as a living being, because it says it's our life. I mean, if you're really into it, it gives you life. When you learn Torah and you're learning it properly, you feel afterwards really vitalized. You feel refreshed from it. You feel you get a charge out of it. If you learn Torah and you don't get a charge out of it, it means you didn't really learn it properly, because it really does give you a charge. It's interesting. You watch people walking out of, say, a philosophy class or biology class. They don't look excited, but people who really learn Torah get excited after. They want to tell everybody else about it. It gives you life. When you do mitzvahs, you do, whether it's a mitzvah of helping somebody else out, or a mitzvah of eating matzah on Pesach, hearing a shofar, Rosh Hashanah, you get life from that. It gives you a charge. It picks you up. When you put yourself into it, you're doing it properly. You're totally throwing yourself into it. Delve into them day and night. Okay? So then it gives you life. But now it could be giving you life in one of two ways. It could be giving you life like that fetus in its mother's womb. It's not your life. You're getting life from somewhere else. You're like that car that's moving because the engine is moving it, because somebody's driving it. It's not you doing it. So the life is detached from you. So if you put it like this, there are people who say, listen, I'm alive, I'm here, I'm me, this is my name, I'm Tzvi Freeman. I have a house. The house has a garage. There's 2 cars in the garage. I have a job. I got furniture. I've got a wife and kids. Oh, and I also have a God and Torah, and I do those too. So it's like, first I'm here, and then, yeah, this Torah stuff, yeah, and I really like it, and it gives me a big charge out of it. So, okay, that's very good. That's very nice. But what the Baal Shem Tov came along and did was take that to a whole other level. It's not that the Torah is giving you life. The Torah is your life. It's who you are. And the Baal Shem Tov went around. It was a time when many Jews were very depressed because of a lot of disasters that had happened after the Cossack revolt and so on. And there were many preachers, Jewish preachers, who were their sermons were real fire and brimstone, how you better shape up or you're going to hell type of thing. Not very pleasant. So the Baal Shem Tov went around and had his whole group, his colleagues, who went around. They were hidden tzaddikim at first. And instead of telling Jews, you better shape up or else, the punishments that are going to come, God forbid, or instead of telling them, do good because then God's going to reward you and you're going to go to heaven. So instead of saying that, what the message was is, you are a Jew. Do you know how precious you are, and everything that you do? You know how precious that is to your Creator. Every mitzvah that you do is so precious. Every word of Torah you learn is so precious. You are so precious. It's all very precious. Everything about it is very, very precious. So that was a completely different way of dealing with things. Instead of dealing with things as externally, reward and punishment, you're dealing with the person as, this is who you are. This is your identity. This is your life. Not something about you, but your life as you are. So now a Jew wanted to do mitzvahs, wanted to learn Torah, not for something external from him. It was, that's my identity. Okay, and this all fits into a very essential teaching that the Baal Shem Tov says. It's something really quite radical. In theological terms, they call it radical monism. We're monotheists, we have one God. But the Baal Shem Tov explains that doesn't mean that there's just, when it says, you shall know today and establish in your heart that God is the God, there is no other besides him. He explained that doesn't mean that there is no other God besides him, just plain monotheism. He explains there is nothing else. There's really only one real existence. Everything that you see is just an epiphenomenon of that one existence. But really there's only one existence. Everything else doesn't really truly exist. It's all contingent. Everything else that we see, the heavens and the earth and everything upon it, exists because this one true existence decides I want that to exist right now, at this point. So even existence itself is something that decides I want there should be existence. It's all a voluntary choice. And that's what we call God, the one who is choosing that everything should exist. Okay, so this is something very separate. That means there really exists nothing separate of him. He is the only existence that no matter what he exists, it doesn't depend on something else to exist. Everything else is contingent on his decision whether it should be or should not be. And so therefore, as Baal Shem Tov explained, if he would decide that I don't want it to exist, so if God would decide, say, that a moment ago there was an elephant in the room, and he decided, nah, I don't like that idea of an elephant in the room. So then it's not just the elephant would disappear. The elephant would never have been. It'd be like ripped out of the code. It would never have existed because it's not something that he wanted to exist. And that's the way it is with the whole world. If God would decide, you know what, this whole idea of a world wasn't such, I decided right now that it's not going to be. Not only not going to be, so it never was because time itself was created. And the same applies, although this is harder for us to get, the same applies to our very own ego. I feel I exist. Why do I feel I exist? Because this creator wants that I should feel that I exist. And that I should feel I'm the only I and everybody else is you and them and he and she. That's what he decided. So that's also contingent. That's very hard to swallow. It's very hard to get. It's actually not so difficult to understand. It's just hard to adjust your way of thinking to that. But basically what that means is that when you are talking about God or talking to God, it's not, well, there's this world and there's my house and there's my garage with 4 cars, whatever, and then there's God. No, all there really is just God. That's it. And all of this stuff that's happening around you is just like a story that he's telling or something that's happening that's coming out of him, and it's really one with him. So now, that's why when, according to the Baal Shem Tov, when you're going to be learning Torah and you're connecting with God, it doesn't make sense that you're going to feel that there are 2 entities, that there's you and there's this Torah that you're learning, or there's you and there's this mitzvah that you're doing. It can't be, because once you're involved in Torah and mitzvahs, all there is just him. So who are you? What are you doing here? I see there's some questions, going to get to them in a minute. What are you doing here? Right? That becomes a major question. How can I possibly be here? It's just him. So what am I, and how is it that I feel I exist? How can I possibly, it's embarrassing that I feel I exist. All there is just him. Also, you feel, well, if what he wants is Torah and mitzvahs, he wants somebody to connect to him through his mind, wants somebody to express love and feel his love through prayer. He wants somebody to partner with him fixing up the world. So he wants these things done. Torah and mitzvahs should get done. Oh, so I'm the medium through which these things are going to happen. But that's something separate from me. I'm just an expression of Torah and mitzvahs actually happening. I'm the way that it actually happens. So that's what it means you became born in Torah and mitzvahs, that this life is not something separate from you. You and this life are now one entire being. Okay, I'm going to take a look at these questions from round one. And the first question was, or is, doesn't the newborn know some Torah at birth? For instance, it instinctively knows how to direct people to care for his or her life. Okay, that's very interesting. It knows to scream and get you to care for its life. It's much more than that, really. I think universally, people feel a sense of morality, and it's an inherent morality. It develops as they grow, but universally, people know that it's not a nice thing to hurt somebody else, and they have a certain sense of sexual morality as well. They have a certain sense of respect for authority, and certain protocol and so on. And there are societies that develop it in one way, societies develop in another way, societies that override those things. And a person who doesn't naturally have those senses is a sociopath, a very dangerous person. So we have these. They're not rational things. We're born with all of these senses, and there's a lot of wisdom that people can gain without ever having learned Torah. So it seems to be something innate. In fact, there was Nissim Gaon, one of the very an early sage who lived in North Africa, and he taught that everything that the human being naturally feels is right. He's obligated to do, and that's part of his service of God, to be a proper, upright human being, the way a human being feels happy. We struggle with these things all the time, constantly restraining ourselves, but we have a sense of right and wrong. But that's not Torah. That's morality. It's necessary, but it's not Torah. Torah doesn't just mean that you're doing the morally correct thing. Torah is when we take morality up to a whole new level. So, for example, you have a sense of taste. Animals also have a sense of taste: sour, bitter, salty, whatever. But human beings take that sense of taste, they raise it up to a whole new level, and they make restaurants and culinary delights and whatnot. We have hearing. Animals also hear. But human beings take hearing, they make music out of it. And we have vision, we make art out of that. We take things up to a higher level, but we can take it up to yet a higher level than that. We can take it up to a godly level, where we say that, why do I have these senses? These senses are in order to connect me to my Creator. So I'm using my sense of taste, my sense of hearing, my sense of vision, all my senses, to connect me and everything that I do to my Creator. And how do I connect it? Because I will use them to serve my Creator. What does my Creator want? That I should fix up His world. And I don't know how to fix up His world unless He tells me. So He tells me through the Torah. So that's how I'm doing it. So we're taking this moral sense that the human being has innately, and Torah lifts that up to a whole new level. Use that moral sense that you have inherently. Use that as a way to connect to your Creator and fix up the world. That's what Torah is all about. And that's something that has to be taught. You have to get it from somewhere. It had to be given to us. Okay, I hope I answered that question. But please, if I didn't, or if there's more, please ask more questions. I get a much bigger kick out of answering questions than I do out of just teaching to people that I can't see or hear and have no clue who they are. But it's nice to have you here anyways. Okay, let's go on. We're at step 2 on page 6, which is about learning the limbs. Okay, so because remember, with this Hai Elul is not just the birthday of the Baal Shem Tov, it's also the birthday of Rabbi Shneur Zalman of Liadi, the Alter Rebbe, the first Rebbe of Chabad. Okay, so now let me give you a little bit of background of what happened over here. The Baal Shem Tov came, he started a whole new populist movement, but the truth is that movements happen in every generation. New movements come about in every generation. It's like this. Thousands of movements, even just within the Jewish people alone, that have started. And very, very few movements last more than 1 or 2 generations. Something has to happen that this movement could last. So here, a great success of the Baal Shem Tov is he started a movement within Judaism that's still alive today, very much alive, and has tremendous impact today. So what happened is, at the time, when these teachings got around, of course, there were many antagonists who wanted to wipe this out. They didn't like this new radical idea. They felt you're giving the simple people too much power and degrading the sages. And anyways, people were understanding the Baal Shem Tov this way, understanding it that way, and so on. So Rabbi Shneur Zalman of Liadi was not a student directly of the Baal Shem Tov. He was a student of the heir to the Baal Shem Tov, the Magd of Mezrich. But he considered himself to be a grandson, spiritually, of the Baal Shem Tov. And he was a great penman, a great writer. And he wrote letters defending the Hasidic movement. And most of the letters that we have defending the Hasidic movement are his letters. And he was the one who sat in prison twice because of accusations against the Hasidic movement to the Tsar of Russia. And then he managed, in the 1790s, he managed to write a small book called Sefer HaTanya, which became like an everyman's guide to what the Baal Shem Tov was teaching. So that if you were there, standing in front of the Baal Shem Tov, you knew what to do and what not to do. And you became alive, you were inspired with him. But now this gets served as a book for even if you weren't there in the presence of the Baal Shem Tov or of his students, you could have guidance from a Rebbe, but you would be able to do it on your own. That was Sefer Tanya, and that's really what made the Hasidic movement viable, that it could last because of these written teachings. That was one of the principal teachings, perhaps the principal teaching. What the Alter Rebbe did is he took this general idea of the Baal Shem Tov and took it into specifics. The Baal Shem Tov says, you have faith innately. You have love of God innately. Every Jew has this love. Every Jew has this sense of awe. Okay, and that brought you alive. What the Alter Rebbe did is, now how do I bring that into the details? How do I actually apply it? I just got an important message over here. Tell the people they can submit their questions on the bottom of the page where it says to leave a comment, and you will answer it live. Okay, and actually, I have a question over here. Questions round 2. This is from Derek from California. Hey, I'm also in California right now. When are our memories manifested? In the mother or after birth? If there is potential for a memory manifestation within the mother, why metaphysically we have memories at 4 years old? Okay. No, I just realized you raised an interesting question, because if we don't have memories of what was happening inside the fetus, inside the mother's womb, then why would we have to have an angel come and slap us on the mouth to forget everything? We wouldn't remember it anyways. And what would be the point of teaching us? Okay, I mean, as far as I understand, most people's memories go back, the earliest to like 4 years old. There are individuals who can remember things from 3 or even they're 2 years old. But it's an interesting question. And it's such a good question that I don't know the answer. I'm going to have to think about that a lot. But most of our real memories come from around the time that we're able to talk, and we leave the world of sensation and enter into a verbal world. Okay, well that's a whole other thing. Thanks for the question. Now I got something to think about. Okay, this whole preface of I was explaining to you the difference about the Baal Shem Tov did, and how the Alter Rebbe grounded all of that. By the way, he also grounded it because he said, he wrote to those who opposed the Hasidic movement. He wrote to them that the Baal Shem Tov didn't teach anything new. I challenge you, tell me anything that he taught, and I will show it to you in the Talmud, in the Zohar, and previous great teachers that everybody accepts. And if he can't be found there, he didn't teach it, and I'll show you that he didn't teach it. Somebody made it up. So we've really grounded it in tradition. That's any movement that really is going to last has to ground itself in what came before in order to last, and that's what he did. Okay, but here we're talking about how the Alter Rebbe brought this general idea of this innate faith and love inside the Jew and brought it into the details and how that applies to life. Because life means that every limb and organ that you have now starts to fully function the way it's supposed to function. This is an amazing thing. Of course, there's many organs that are already doing their function before you're born. But as soon as the baby comes out into the world, everything changes. It has to start breathing. From what I understand, the circulation, the blood circulation, has to start going in the opposite direction. Eyes open, and the ears start to hear in a completely different way. Nostrils, the mouth, everything starts changing. There's hundreds of things that just have to change all of a sudden, and all these limbs and organs are now going to work completely different. The way that nourishment is coming into the baby is a completely different way than beforehand. So all of these limbs and organs now each have their particular function, that they function on their own and do their own particular thing. So that's like this transition from the Baal Shem Tov to the Alter Rebbe. The Baal Shem Tov is giving you this life in general. There's a whole new charge of life, joy, enthusiasm. But it's in this general life. So a person feels, I'm a Jew, I have faith, so therefore I'm not going to steal, I'm not going to cheat, I'm going to do the right thing, I'm going to do Torah, I love Torah. But still he feels that this emunah that he has, he doesn't feel full ownership of it. You don't have full ownership of something until it has come into the details. And that's what the Alter Rebbe did. He showed you that, fine, it's wonderful that you have faith, it's wonderful that you have love, but you have your own mind. It's your mind. You think with it. You think differently than anybody else thinks. Now, what you need to do is take that mind and use it to try to absorb that which you believe. To bring that belief into your mind. Now, what we believe is something very transcendental. We'll never be able to completely understand it. Now, what a small child means when he asks God to make it a sunny day today, we'll never be able to understand and articulate that in rational terms. What your bubby means when she's talking about how much she loves God and loves being Jewish, it can't be brought into rational terms. But the mind has to strive as much as it can to bring that which transcends the mind into the mind. And then, once you've done that, then that can now come into your heart, and it can come into your personality and change every detail of your personality. He says that's essential. That has to be done. It has to come within every part of you and interact in every part of you. So that's like every limb coming alive and the person being born. So the mind becomes alive, the heart and the emotions become alive. So the person feels, what is love all about? Love is created so I could love God and feels God's love for me. Why do I have fear? So I could feel the awe of God. Why do I have a sense of beauty and what is beautiful? So I could have a sense of the beauty of this universe God created. Okay, so the Baal Shem Tov and the Alter Rebbe gives this manual so we can have this complete manual for complete spiritual birth. I'm going to look at the question over here, and it doesn't say who it's from, but I was told that as we grow in the womb, we have all the knowledge of the Torah, and then we are born and it's wiped clean from our minds. Yeah, we said that at the beginning of the talk. I'm sorry that you missed that. Why is it important to know the law of a baby's life being equal to his mother once he's crowned? Why is it important to know the law of a baby's life being equal to his mother once he's crowned? I mean, maybe once he's born. So, well, I'm not sure I understand the question. If you can type it in again, I'll get that and I'll be able to answer. But one of the things I explained at the beginning of the class is that the soul of the baby is talked about as though it's like a seed inside a shell. It hasn't yet emerged. And it only emerges afterwards. And the life that the baby has within the mother is not its own life, it's the mother's life. Its own life is really not there in a full way inside it. It's really beyond the baby. It says that soul, the baby's own soul, starts to enter the baby as soon as the baby starts to breathe, gets its head out of the womb. And then, even then, it only gradually comes into the baby at certain stages, at 3 years old, at 6 years old, at bar mitzvah, and completely, and even then to 20 years old, to completely unfold within the person. So I wish I understood the question better, so maybe you can explain it to me better. Okay, now I want to tell you a story to get on to the next part, the bottom of page 6 and going on to page 7. So this is an amazing story. Friday night, Hai Elul, 1892. So it was like this year that Hai Elul falls in Shabbos. In 1892, the Rebbe Rashab, that's Rabbi Shalom Dov Ber, the 5th Rebbe of Lubavitch, he was a young man when his father passed away, in his early 20s, and he very much missed his father. And it took him a long time to really accept being the next Rebbe. He wasn't even the oldest son, but the Hasidim saw him as being the next Rebbe anyways, even though he wasn't the oldest. He was poring over one of his father's teachings, a mimer, a long teaching of his father, and struggling to understand it that night. And he fell asleep. And his father came from the other world that night and said, as a reward for struggling to understand my mimer, my teaching, I'm taking you to a special place. And he took him to the chamber above in the heavenly worlds where the soul of the Baal Shem Tov is. And there he saw the Baal Shem Tov together with many of his students and the Alter Rebbe and others, and the Baal Shem Tov was teaching Torah. And he taught 7 lessons. And the Rebbe Rashab told all of these 7 lessons, he told them over to his son the next day. And his son, the previous Rebbe, the 6th Rebbe of Lubavitch, Rabbi Yosef Yitzchak, he told the whole story to his students, and they wrote it down, and that's how we have it. So the first of these teachings expresses everything that we've been talking about right now. So this is an amazing teaching because we got a teaching straight from Gan Eden, straight from the Garden of Eden, the heavenly worlds, from the Baal Shem Tov. And it's on this week's Parsha, the beginning words of this Parsha. The Parsha starts off like this. This is text 5 on page 7. And it will be, when you will come into the land which the God your God gives you for an inheritance, and you possess it and settle in it. Now, so you can take over the land, you possess it. It actually says v'yarashta, which can mean possess it, can also mean inherit it. But you're getting it as an inheritance from your fathers. You're going to take it over, you're going to settle in it. So what are you going to do then? So when that happens, you shall take of the first of all the fruit of the ground. Whenever fruits start to ripen, the first fruits that start to ripen, that start to appear, you're going to tie a little ribbon on it. And then when it comes to the time that you're going to go to the temple, you're going to take it there, fruit of the ground, which you will bring from your land, which God your God is giving you. You shall put them into a basket. And every word here is going to be meaningful, we'll see. Put them into a basket and go to the place which God your God will choose to have his name dwell there. So you're going to actually wait until the Chag a festival when all the Jews go up there on Pesach, and you're going to take this basket and you're going to bring the first fruits there to the temple. I'm sorry. It's Shavuot, festival Shavuot, that you're going to bring the first fruits. Now the Baal Shem Tov explains this word by word. When you come into the land, the word for land is Eretz. Eretz is similar to the Hebrew word Ratzon, Ratzah. And the sages actually say, why is it called Eretz Israel, the land of Israel? Because it's the land Ratzah. It wants to do the will of its maker. The land itself desires to do the will of its maker. And also it's like Ratzah also means like Merutze, it's desirable, a desirable land. So it has to do with desire. So the Baal Shem Tov said, it's called a drush. You give an allegorical, not a simple meaning, but you're giving a deeper meaning, something hidden behind the words over here. So he says, when you'll come to the land means when you'll come to this desire. You have an inspiration. You can have this inspiration, some sort of epiphany, or wow, I'm really inspired. So, and you want to connect. You want to connect with God. So this inspiration is really given to you. God gives it to you. And in fact, it's an inheritance, because you're given it as an inheritance, because every one of us has this faith and has this love as an inheritance. We inherit it from Avraham, Yitzhak, and Yaakov, Abraham, and Sarah, and Isaac, and Rivka, and Jacob, and Rachel, and Leah. We inherited this from them. So we just have it there, and once in a while it comes out, and we're inspired. Okay, so you got this inspiration. What are you supposed to do with it? It says you're supposed to possess it. You have to take ownership of it and settle in it. So you can't let it just evaporate into the, oh wow, that was neat. I had this inspiration. I felt, wow, the whole world is nothing but God. Isn't that amazing? That was cool experience. No, you have to now settle it inside you. You have to take ownership. This has to become you. You have to integrate it within all of you, every part of your personality. It means to put it into a basket. It's going even further. You have to take it and put it into the particulars, not just integrate it in every detail of you. That's how we interpret putting into the basket. Take the light and put it into containers. So internalize that inspiration, and only then is it going to last. Otherwise, it was, wow, that was amazing, and the next day you're back to whoever you were before. What was the point of that? So you do something with it. Okay, so the Baal Shem Tov chose to teach this when the Rebbe Rashab was there in his chamber up there, and on Hai Elul. So why? Because that's the whole idea of this day. This necessity. That's what the Baal Shem Tov and the Alter Rebbe did. Taught you how to take that emunah, that faith, and that love, and put it, internalize it, make it part of you. But then there's the next step. It says, and now you're going to go to the place which God, your God, will choose to have His name dwell there. You're going to not just put it in a basket and that's it. You're going to go to a place where your God takes you. And when you go to a place, we say, wherever you go to a place, it's not you who decides to go to that place. God decides where people go. The footsteps of man are directed by God. You thought you went there because that's where your business is. No, God is directing you there. And He's directing you there because He wants that His name should dwell there, which means that you're going to bring this godliness out into the open, into the rest of the world. Before I explain this part, step 3, I'm going to look at question round number 5. And there's a question from Derek again. That's great. He's in California. I happen to believe that knowledge and understanding are manifested in the conscious mind, and that there is a lens between the conscious mind and the divine soul. Okay. Wisdom and pure intellectual truth is only manifested in the divine soul. So when we create through Yom Tov and Mitzvah and Torah study, we are imbuing the creation with wisdom and truth. Our knowledge and understanding is grown through desiring wisdom and truth. Okay, so it's there, and it's only manifested in the divine soul. But the point of Torah and Mitzvahs is to take it from the divine soul. Well, the point of this derech of this path of the Baal Shem Tov, especially of the Alter Rebbe of Chabad, is to bring that into the human soul, not just the divine soul, but the human mind, and even into the what we call the animal soul of the person. Okay, and that's your job. That's what you're supposed to do. It's initially only manifest in the divine soul. You have to internalize it, put it in the basket. Okay, question. Is wisdom and pure intellectual truth housed in the conscious mind? And if so, why did the seventh Rebbe say to merge body and soul? So that's exactly what we're talking about. This is the part that's given up to each one of us to accomplish. It's there in the divine soul. The Baal Shem Tov reveals to you that it's there. And the Alter Rebbe tells you now how to take it and bring it into your conscious mind. So this path of Chassidus, especially Chassidus Chabad, is basically to cognate. It's a cognitive experience where that which is subliminal to your conscious mind now is going to come within the conscious mind. And that can only come through learning about these things, learning about what it is you believe in depth and in detail, and contemplating it in depth and in detail, and putting a lot of energy, taking that very seriously to learn it. And then it becomes part of your conscious self. Now it becomes your life. It's not something separate from you. You're alive with it. And that's what brings us to the next part. What happens when you really come alive with godliness? Okay, basically, you've taken this 2.5-pound slab of gray meat in your skull, and you've got it to absorb godly light. That's something amazing. I mean, to me, it's amazing that that slab of meat can do any sort of understanding to begin with, but somehow that happens. But that it's understanding its creator, and it's connected to its creator. It's understanding something godly. It understands that I don't really exist except because I have a meaning and a purpose. That's something totally amazing. What's going to happen now? It came alive in a godly way. What is it going to do? So we see what happens when you're born. The first thing that happens as soon as you're born is you give out a scream and everybody hears. And immediately you affect all of your surroundings. I remember when my first grandchild was born, we started counting. Okay, this little pitzela, this little, looks like just like a piece of meat with 2 eyeballs. This little tiny creature just made me into a grandfather, made my wife into a grandmother. And 2 other people also became grandmother and grandfather. That's not all. There are some other people, quite a few of them, who became great-grandparents, some of them for the very first time. And then there were a whole slew of kids who all became uncles and aunts, all changed by this one person just coming to the world and breathing. Okay, and then changes. I mean, you're totally transformed when you become a parent. Fine, you are the father or the mother of this child, but the child is the one who made you into a mother or made you into a father, which is a tremendous transformation in your life. Okay, and this is writing here that affects all of her surroundings. Her smile brightens everyone's day. Her presence alone makes her mother. Okay, whatever she does, everybody's celebrating it. So the first thing about being born is that you affect your surroundings. You can't say that you are alive, but you're just a product of your surroundings, and you're making no impact on your surroundings. If it's only your surroundings are affecting you, then you're not really alive. If all that you are thinking about is whatever's on the radio or on the billboard or on the internet or a book that you're reading and something, and that's all you can think about, but you never say, I am thinking right now, so then you're not truly alive. So that's the next part. You're going to go to the place with God, you're going to choose, and have His name dwell there. So you're not truly alive until wherever you go, wherever you're led, you have to take other people and let them know and shake the whole world up with Torah and mitzvahs. That's true life, and that's what we see that Chassidus does, the way of the Baal Shem, especially the Alter Rebbe does, is that a person who learns it goes about affecting surroundings and changing his surroundings and bringing other people into this and changing the whole world around him. That's going to the place that God chose for you and making his name dwell over there. Okay, that was the next part. There's actually a few words that got missed in the printing. That when you come to the desire, this is on page 8, on the left column. When you come to the desire to connect to God, and you take that desire and put it in a basket, so then you will then appreciate that every place you come to is destined by its creator to be filled with godliness. By who? By you. Okay, to summarize this up, I got a message here I have to check. Okay, I'll do that at the end. To summarize, this at the very end. You see, the Baal Shem Tov came, appeared at a certain point in history, in the 18th century. He actually moved to the city of Mezhebush in the Ukraine in the year 1740. That's very significant, 1740, when he came there. And that's when he became publicly known. He was no longer a hidden tzaddik. He was known to everybody in the year 1740. 1740 is halfway through the sixth day of creation. Basically like this. We divide history into 6 millennia, 6 1,000-year periods. And the first 1,000 years corresponds to the first day of creation. The second 1,000 years to the second day of creation, and so on. So we are now in the 6th millennia, which lasts for 1,000 years, which in secular dates began in the year 1240. 1240 would be the year 5000. So 1740 would be dawn, 500 years later. You can divide year and a half. The year starts in the evening, and then you go through midnight. Midnight was 1490, 1492, the Spanish expulsion. Once you get to dawn, 1740, that's the point where the Baal Shem Tov appears. Now, why is that significant? Because the 6th millennia, the sages say that's the preparation. That's the time when Mashiach is supposed to arrive. To prepare the world for the 7th millennia, which is Shabbos, which is a time beyond time, a world when this world totally transcends itself. Mashiach has to come within the 6th millennia to prepare for that 7th, the times of Mashiach. So at the dawn of this time of Mashiach, the Baal Shem Tov appears. That's called dawn. 72 minutes after dawn is sunrise, and if you work that out within this 1,000-year scheme and everything, the 72 years later, 72 minutes later comes out to 50 years later, which is 1790. That's the time that the Alter Rebbe is writing Tanya, the book of Tanya, that I talked about, this guide for the everyman. Also happens to be the French Revolution. That's sunrise. The world is totally changing, preparing for the times of Mashiach through this teaching, through a teaching that allows the human mind to absorb godliness and then spread it throughout the entire world. So the times of Mashiach is compared by the prophet to birth. It says when we left Egypt, was the birth pangs, the struggling, the slavery that went to birth pangs, and so there's going to be birth pangs again, the pains of birth, when in the times of Mashiach. That's what we have experienced enough of them already. And then we're born. So this Geula, the times of Mashiach, is a birth. Why? Because right now, we only have a taste of this experience of godliness being our life. But in the times to come, in the times of Mashiach, which will be very soon, it's got to happen really soon, then we fully function that way. Our minds will be minds that just naturally understand godliness. When we look at the world, we will look at the world as, this is obviously a godly place. Wow, this is amazing. That will be the natural experience. It says that our little kids, all of our children, will be great prophets. That's what it will be, a natural thing to see godliness. And that is true life. When your entire life, your entire being is that godly experience. That means you've absorbed that life. It's your life. It's who you are. So when you think about what that means, you want it to happen really, really soon. I just got a message that I should announce that there's a campaign over here. We call it Mivtza. The link is jnet.org/Chai, C-H-A-I. Chai is Hai Elul, that's life. So there's 3 questions. There's a raffle. Anybody wants to go into that, just click the link and you'll get there. I'm looking to see if there's any more questions. I don't see any more, but you can put them. I got another note over here. I have to mention that the class was a project of JNet, Program for Learning Torah Online, learning one-on-one with other people. You get your own private tutor, your time, your place, by phone or internet. And so it's a joint project of JNet together with Chabad.org. This will also, you'll be able to view this afterwards again, and you can leave comments on the page, and God willing, I will answer any reader comments. I'll try my best to answer reader comments that are put there on the page afterwards. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. I hope you enjoyed the class. And everybody should have be signed and sealed in the book of life for the coming year. Have a great new year.